Hi, everybody. It is episode 534 of PodQuest.
Hi.
Everything sucks. It is Wednesday, November 6th, 2024. I am Chris. With me is Druten.
Hello.
And Walnut.
Are you guys ready to go to your internment camps? Actually, no. We're all white dudes. We're not going to have to.
Yeah.
Never mind.
It's cool. Like, I have a trip to Toronto next month. I'm just going to find a job, move Erica up there.
Cub, you don't even need to get a job. You work from home.
Yeah, but you can't work, you can't generally actually have a residence in another country while working for another country. I asked somebody that once.
That seems not necessarily true.
Well, I mean, it's going to depend on the company, but like my company has no international anything.
Right. Yes.
That is more the problem. Like if the company had any sort of international footprint, then yeah, it's fine, but they don't. So I would have no way to be taxed or anything or pay taxes, and it would be weird.
Yeah.
So I'll just find a new job.
Yeah, pretty much. No,
Computers exist in Canada.
Here's the thing. Like, I've made the jokes of moving. And, like, honestly, if I had a partner or somebody that was like, yeah, let's move, I'd be like, yeah, sure. But I don't really believe in that. I don't believe in moving because things are bad. Because then you can't change things. You're just running away from the problem. You're not fixing it. And so, yes, these next 4 years are going to suck, but we got to do what we can to fight it. And hopefully we do what we can to fix it. And that's all there is to it. Because if we run away, things are just going to continue to get worse.
Yeah. Like, and especially the three of us as white men, like, I fully understand anyone that's not a white man, like, being like, yeah, no, I can't be here anymore. But unfortunately, things will probably be less hard for us in a way that sucks. And that's going to be the case. Like,
so not to get it too into the weeds of this all, I posted something on my Discord, and I shared that poster on all of my socials. I had somebody comment on it, and I gotta just pull up her exact words because I responded this to her, and it was about like the revocation of Roe v. Wade, and she said, let's find it. Let's find it because it was insane. Here we go. She said, not using your words against you, but these points are all falsely made as far as women's rights and gay, etc. go. Me as a woman don't plan on getting raped by an illegal immigrant criminal, but if I did, my rights to abort still stand because the state I live in controls that. Aren't you lucky?
Yeah, exactly.
If something bad happens to you, you're fine because you live in the Northeast that allows this shit. But, like, you voted for Trump. You voted for the person that made it states' rights and not a right across the board. And that's the bullshit. They don't understand that they're fine, but everyone else isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Everything's wonderful. Everything's great. I love it. I love this country. I don't understand how somebody can vote for this man.
Because everybody sucks. That's the problem.
Kamala, I believe, officially conceded, so...
Yeah, at 4:30.
Yep. It is what it is. There's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
Even if they happen to find the other fucking 20 million votes that are just people didn't vote this year, there's nothing we can do.
No, unfortunately not. Like we already said, like it's just a matter of getting through these next 4 years and trying to be better along the way.
That's the thing that like really blows my mind the most is like how many like in 2016 for popular vote wise, it was about 130 million votes. 65 million plus 62 million plus 4 plus 1 plus another 700. So about 130 million votes. And then in 2020, it was 80 million to 70 million for between Biden and Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so that was 80 plus 70 plus 70 is 140, so it's 150 million people. And this year we're missing. Kamala only got 62 million or 65 million, something like that. She's missing 15 million of Biden's votes.
Yeah, well, you know what the problem is?
She's a whole
bunch of this country showed that they are racist and sexist and didn't want to vote for a brown woman.
Yeah, that's what it is.
There are absolutely other factors involved, but like that's a big one.
Yeah, I want an active poll on the people who didn't vote. Those 20 million votes.
Well, they
I
didn't
don't
vote.
think-
They're not going to fucking answer poll questions. Come on now.
But that's like I wish I could get voting records. I don't want to know who they voted for. I just want to know if they voted in 2020 and if they voted this year. That's it. And I want to go to them and I want to ask them why you didn't vote. And if you voted Democrat, why didn't you vote Democrat? And if you voted Republican, why didn't you vote Republican? Why? Because Trump lost 2 million votes. So that's the thing. That's the thing that really blows my mind about this all. Is I mentioned this. 15 million votes are missing. 20 million votes are missing. Trump did not gain any votes. He lost 2 million votes. And Kamala lost 15 million from last year's Democratic election.
So have any numbers been released for like the independent parties? Like did any of them go up?
They're entirely negligible.
They're not 15 million.
Okay.
I don't even know if combined it's a million. Or it's like, actually, I think I saw one thing. Combined, it's 1.5 million between.
Yeah, Jill Stein
Jill
Stein has 630,000. RFK has 603,000. Chase Oliver has 568,000, and other candidates have 319,000. So barely 2 million votes.
Yeah, and a lot of people were just, I don't like either of them, so I'm just not voting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because I said this to Erica. Like, this is as much the voters' fault as the Democrats. The Democrats just bungled this election start to finish. If they should have never had Biden running in the first place. He should have just up front been like, I'm doing one term. And they should have had a proper primary. Yeah. It shouldn't have come down to the week before the fucking DNC where they just give us Harris. Nothing against her. She's a politician. Every politician's a piece of shit. That none of them are good. If you're running for that sort of office, you're a fucking scumbag. And
also on running strategy, Trump did everything right. He had one debate against Biden, and Biden fumbled horribly. So he was like, great, I'm winning. And then he had one debate against Harris. He fumbled, and he refused to do another debate because he knew if he did, his voters were not going to vote for him because of how much he's also senile.
Yeah.
They played it right. They played it properly. And it's unfortunate. And it sucks. Misogyny. That's why she didn't win. It's because she's a woman.
Yeah.
And it hurts.
It's because she's a woman of color. Be real. If Clinton was close. Clinton won the popular vote in 2016. Mm-hmm. It's not just the woman thing. It's also the race thing. This country sucks.
Clinton won the popular vote, but again, there was also in 2016 there was less voters than there were this year.
I mean, that's fair.
So in 2016 between the two, Jill Stein and Gary Johnson took 5 million votes. There was 130 million votes in 2016, maybe 140 actually. 65 plus 62 plus 5. So 142 versus 67 plus 72. It's 150 something votes. 150 something million votes. It's yeah.
But you know what? We're not a political show. As much as everything sucks, let's try and talk about things that didn't suck, except for Monster Hunter.
That definitely didn't suck.
Rich, what is on the agenda?
Cobb, you watched Terrifier 1 and 2, which I have no idea what that is. I played the Monster Hunter Wilds beta, and Cobb, you also read Project Hail Mary.
Yeah. So you've never heard of Terrifier?
I don't think so.
Drew, have you heard of this?
I've heard of it. They're horror movies. That's the extent of my knowledge.
Yeah. No,
that's it's immediate. Okay, I don't care.
Yeah. Okay. I was just curious because it's been pretty popular the last 6 months or so.
I mean, I'll say I never heard of the first one until the second one was coming out 5 weeks ago or whatever. I didn't know there was a third one or whatever.
Yeah, the third one just came out. So same. I had not actually heard of these until I had heard the name. I think when the second one came out 2 or 3 years ago, but just didn't think anything of it. And then the third one came out last month. I want to say, and just got a whole bunch of talk all over the place. So we went and watched the first two. So these are, and I guess full spoilers for Terrifier because I know you guys don't give a fuck. These are horror movies in the vein of like 80s slasher horror movies, but very fucking gruesome.
Mhm.
And it's all practical effects. And the first one in particular was pretty low budget. So while the kills are very visceral, they're also not like, it's one of those things where you can just sit there and watch it and be like, that is obviously a dummy and fucking food dye and corn syrup coming out of that head. Like, there's nothing real there. That face looks like modeling chocolate. Like, but there's still just something very like almost stomach turning about some of them because you do have like the people screaming at like off. Obviously, they're off camera when they're screaming, but you know. So it follows. The first one follows these two girls on Halloween who really aren't doing anything. Like they're leaving a party and they go to a pizza place, and this fucking creepy dude comes in a black and white clown costume carrying a black trash bag, and his teeth are all blacked out, and he's creepy. He doesn't say a word. He kind of like does a little bit of like pantomime, and that's about it. At one point he ends up getting up and going to the bathroom, and while he's in the bathroom, he just smears the entire room with his own shit, it seems, including writing his name, Art the Clown, on the wall in shit. So he gets kicked out of there, the girls leave, and then the clown goes back and murders the two people in the pizza place, the people working there, turning one of their heads into a jack-o'-lantern. But then it just turns into him, like, finding these girls in an abandoned building because they were trying to find a bathroom for whatever stupid reason. And the few other people that are in this building, like, what was that?
Sorry. My phone.
Oh. One of them was the one girl was looking for the bathroom. Her friend just went with her. There was like a repair person there trying to like do work to the building because like they were trying to like fix it up. And there was like a homeless lady like kind of like wandering around being crazy. And this fucking killer clown who doesn't speak a word through the whole movie just systematically kills all of them. Right up to the end when the one girl's sister comes to pick them up and gets her face kind of bashed in, but ends up living because the cops show up just in time and the clown shoots himself and dies. Or we think he dies. So the second one picks up, and the second one actually has a story. The first one's really weird in that it's really just the killing. Like it's one of those sort of movies. There's very little narrative to it. It's just some setup to get you to the murder and the horror stuff. But the writer and director actually like came away from that going like, yeah, the movie needed more like something. Like it needed a character arc. It needed a reason for people to give a fuck that these other people were being murdered. So the second one, like he actually wrote a like, I'm not gonna say a good movie because it's still like an 80s horror movie, but he wrote something that felt more akin to like your Nightmare on Elm Streets, your Friday the 13th, your Halloweens, where yes, everyone in those movies makes just the worst fucking life decisions the entire goddamn time. But also, like, they're not bad people, and you're kind of rooting for them against this evil thing that's just hunting and murdering them for no apparent fucking reason. So that's kind of like where the second one ends up going, where Art the Clown ends up somehow being resurrected by something. They don't really explain it. Like, we know it's supernatural, and that's about it. And they never really tell us why he seems to focus in on this one family, but he focuses in on this one family. It's a girl, her younger brother, and their mom. Their dad died, but was apparently slightly obsessed with this clown and all the people he killed and had like this notebook full of stuff before he killed himself. And so the Art the Clown just fucking kills the mom, almost kills the brother, kills a bunch of the sister's friends, and it kind of all culminates in them in an abandoned amusement park on Halloween, and like them having to basically fight this evil demonic clown, which sounds really cheesy, but was actually it was fun. Like they did actually a really good job with that, even with the over the top kind of supernatural stuff they started like feeding into it. And then they open it up at the end for the third one by showing us that the girl from the first movie, who we did know was still alive, was like back in a mental hospital and gave this is super fucking gross. She somehow ends up possessed and gives birth to the severed head of Art the Clown, which is still alive. And from what I've heard, the third movie opens up with his just headless body going on a rampage until she can reunite it with the head, and they go on a killing spree together.
Wild.
Yeah, like these are over the top and fucking stupid, but they're the fun kind of stupid that I like in like kind of B horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
They are super gory though. Like if you have a weak stomach or just don't enjoy that stuff, it can definitely be hard to watch. But like I said, like for me at least, most of it was so obviously fake that it was almost like going to like haunted houses, like at Halloween. Like when you see all those like mannequin bodies and stuff like that, you're like, well, that's obviously a mannequin. Like there's not actually a person laying on that bed like with like blood pumping out of them. That's what a lot of these things look like, but it still kind of sets a mood and is honestly just kind of fun, like in a weird, morbid way.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of it is they take aspects of a bunch of these 80 horrors things, like the sort of unstoppable, like supernatural killer that is like Jason, for instance. Like he's silent, he never says anything, or Michael Myers. Neither of them say anything. They just kind of seem to appear, cause mayhem, and then move on. They can't be killed. They can't be stopped. They never chase anybody. They do that, slow walk, and somehow whoever's running from them always manages to still fucking get caught somehow.
They always break their leg. Break their leg.
Yeah, exactly. And in this one, so Art the Clown has that going for him, like just that silent kind of like intimidation. But then he's got that fucking twisted, dark sense of humor that like Freddy Krueger has.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't talk or anything, but like Freddy in all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies he's evil, but like he makes everything a joke. Like as he's killing people, he's cracking like very morbid, twisted jokes at them.
Yeah.
And like while Art the Clown's not saying jokes, he's doing shit and like smiling afterwards in this like obviously like haha, see what I did there sort of way. There's one scene in the second one where he kills a guy in like a costume store and again like cuts his head off, and before he did that he closed and locked the door to the store, and so you see this mom and her kid come up to the door and go, oh, it's closed, and the kid like peers in the window and it pans and it shows all the like Halloween like decorations lined up, like all like the killer like statues and stuff like that. And the last one is literally Art standing there with like his creepy smile, holding the severed head of the guy he just killed. And he's just standing there completely still. And then when the kid like turns around, he like drops the head and like kicks it away and like dances away like off camera. And it's like, okay, that's fucking weird. And there's a few times where he'll just be sitting there doing something very specific. Somebody will walk up and like he'll be caught doing it, and he'll just give them this like twisted smile, and then go right back to what he was doing. Like he doesn't actually care that somebody sees him doing something incredibly evil. And there was even a scene in the second one again where he ends up going and he kills one girl that was like handing out candy. He does like the initial kind of interaction though is he goes up and like knocks on the door like he's a trick or treater, and she refuses to give him candy because he's a fucking weirdo and an adult. And later on, after he killed her, he actually answers the door to trick-or-treaters, but has all the candy in her severed head. He really likes cutting off people's heads, is what I'm realizing as I'm saying all of these. And so he's like holding the severed head out to the kids to take the candy, and they all just think it's like a toy. Like none of them think it's a real severed head. One kid goes to like take like a second one, and he like reaches out and like smacks his hand away and like holds up like one finger. And like does his like creepy smile again, because the girl earlier said that only kids get one piece of candy. So it was just like this very like funny callback sort of thing that you just wouldn't have expected to happen in that moment.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was a weird fucking movie movies in every way. But I enjoyed them, and we're actually probably going to watch the third one sometime in December because it should hit VOD like end of November, early December. Mm-hmm. And the third one is apparent. So these are all unrated movies, which is wild. The third one actually had a wide theatrical release. Knocked the Joker out of the number one spot. Like, actually was the number one movie in the country for at least a weekend.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hear the Joker was a terrible movie.
Well, yeah, but still, like, you wouldn't expect this weird, like, low-budget movie to end up being the number one movie, like, just in general. And it's apparently also the highest grossing unrated movie ever.
I don't know. I mean, some of the best games I played were lower-budget games.
I mean, games are different than movies, though, and that's the thing. Like, low-budget movies don't always hit well, and when they do, it's more because they're, like, so bad they're funny. This was funny, but it wasn't funny because it's bad, if that makes sense. Like, they actually they put the time and effort into making, like, a compelling, like, kind of background for stuff that, like, leaves you wondering what the fuck is going on, while still having it just be low budget as far as, like, effects and everything go. Yeah. I don't know. It's weird, but I am looking forward to seeing the third one and kind of seeing where things went with it.
Nice.
Yeah. But that out of the way, Rich, what did you think of this Monster Hunter beta?
I am impatiently waiting for February 28th to come. I was hoping it was going to be more... They've done demos in the past, and usually it's like you play the demo, there's like 2 monsters, you fight them, and then they release another demo. It's like there's one more monster, and if you beat that, you get... Like, you always get items if you have save data from the demo, and then you get more items if you are able to beat the final monster, because it's usually like a harder rank, higher, more difficult monster. This time they just did it as a beta weekend, and not as like a full-on demo that you've got like unlimited time to do. And like, it really just scratches the surface, and it makes me incredibly excited about what's to come from this series, or from this game, because it changes the game a lot. Like, in Monster Hunter Rise and Monster Hunter World, it changed the game from you can only bring one weapon into a fight to, well, if you go back to your camp, you can actually change your weapon and change your loadout entirely and refill your items. They never had that prior to Monster Hunter World. Well, in this one, they still have that, but they also have the feature to where you can bring 2 different weapons with you out onto the fight. So you don't have to go back to camp. You can just switch out from one weapon to another. So depending on the situation, depending on the monster you're fighting, it could determine what weapon you want to use. It could determine, like, oh, well, he's in this phase, so I want to switch out to a different weapon. I want to switch out to a ranged weapon because he's in a phase that's ranged is better. Or he's in this phase and it's easier to fight him in close range or something like that. And so, like, all of the, like, features, all of the new features that they're adding into this game are just making me incredibly excited.
I'm sorry, what was this one actually called?
Monster Hunter Wilds.
Thank you.
Yeah. I didn't pay attention to any, like, the cutscenes or story setting or anything like that, because I'm going to have to rewatch it when the main game comes out. So, I didn't care. I only played it for about 3 hours, because that's really all that's because I wasn't getting materials for when I actually play the game. I wasn't getting anything more out of it than practicing with the weapons. And once I figured out, like, the different weapons that I'm liking, the ones that feel right to me, the ones that are just, like, not that special to me, once I, like, got a feel for it and defeated all of the monsters, all the main monsters in the beta, I was like, I'm done. I don't really need to do anymore, because I'm not getting parts anyway, so I can't really build new armor, and I can't get better than what I already am. I don't really care to try to speedrun this. I also only really had, like, 4 hours to play it on Sunday, and that's it. I didn't have a lot of time to play it this weekend. But overall, I tried... What weapons did I try? I tried the bow, the insect glaive, the longsword, the sword and shield, the dual blades.
Was this the one where they, like, added new weapons? Or I remember you talking about something with weapons a couple weeks ago.
They added a new focus mode, is what they did. They added a new, like, attack mode, basically. So, in all the rest of the Monster Hunters, say you're running around with a hammer, you run up to an enemy, you go to attack with the hammer, and he just does his attack. But you can now enter in focus mode, and if you go to swing your hammer and the monster moves, you can actually move your character and you can adjust where the swing is going. There's also, while you're in focus mode, it has the enemies will get, like, wound points that you, if you go up to them and hit a specific button to hit the wound point, it'll, like, do a different kind of attack. It'll stagger the monster. It'll give you some parts or something like that. So it'll actually like affect the fight. So I actually got into the habit of always having the focus mode on, because it just basically what it does is it adds a reticle for you to aim. So you're always able to move around and hit hopefully where you're trying to hit. So you're not whiffing as badly as you could have been in the past when you're swinging at an enemy and just missing because the enemy moved. Now you're like, oh, he moved. Let me turn my camera. Let me aim at him, and I should be able to swing my attack and maybe have a better chance of getting a hit. They added like a contention mode when it comes to fighting enemies. So like if you're able to block or guard in a certain way, you're able to like have a little face off with the monster. I didn't really experience that much because I don't really use weapons that block. I'm bad at blocking. But yeah, it's it adds a lot of new gameplay mechanics to a lot of the weapons, and then like I tried the longsword, and I haven't used a longsword since Monster Hunter World, and it just felt like the longsword. I was like, this is boring. I liked it when I was in World. I don't care about this weapon now because it's also built on perfect dodging and parrying and like counterattacking, and I'm not good at. I don't read the monster that well. I go in, I attack, and if I think I need to get out, I get out. That's my thing. I always try to do some like quick hit and run tactics when it comes to Monster Hunter. Whereas the longsword, it's like you got to go in and you got to plan your attack and you got to plan your counters. And I'm like, that's just it just feels generic to me.
So, so is it just I'm drawing blanks. Is it just Monster Hunter that you don't dodge in? Because don't you kind of have to do like the dodge and block and stuff in the Souls games?
You can dodge in Monster Hunter.
You just said, I'm sorry, you said you're not good at blocking, right?
Yeah.
That's what I meant. I said dodge, but I meant block.
I mean, not every weapon has a block capability.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
you said you don't like doing it, so I thought maybe it was like one of those things where...
I don't like doing it, so I don't use those weapons.
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was like specific to the weapon.
So it's like sword and shield. I'll use a sword and shield because you can actually attack with the shield, and it does... So, like, each weapon has slashing or bludgeoning damage. If you're doing slashing damage, you can actually cut off the tail. If you're doing bludgeoning damage, you can actually knock the enemy out. Sword and shield has both, because if you attack with the sword, you're doing slashing. If you're attacking with the shield, you're doing bludgeoning. So you can actually knock the enemy out and then go and cut the tail off if they're weak enough. So, like, I try to play around with that, but for the most part, in any game that has a guard, I tend to forget that there is a guard feature, especially a heavy combat-oriented game like a FromSoft game or Monster Hunter. Like, my goal is to get in, get out. That's not, like, I'm hit and run tactics when it comes to these games. So yeah, I totally forget. I totally forget to try to block. And so, like, what weapons is it? It's the lance, the gun lance, the great sword, sword and shield, and the charge blade are the only weapons that have a guard. I think maybe the heavy bowgun also has a guard, but I've never used a heavy bowgun, so I don't really care to know if that does it or not. The bowguns kind of scare me because they get a little technical with, like, you actually have to set up your upgrades and your loadouts and stuff. It's very weird. But they made a lot of changes too. Like most weapons have a different kind of play style, and like even my favorite weapon from Monster Hunter Rise, and I even use it in Monster Hunter World, the Insect Glaive. You would generally be a mosquito. Basically, you would be up in the air and you'd be attacking a lot while in the air. You'd land, get your stamina back, and then jump back up in the air. They completely changed that to where now your attacks are more focused to be on the ground. You don't hover around in the air like you did before. You get that one combo in the air, you land on the ground, and then you start hitting them from the ground. But there are a couple of new combos that I didn't even know about when I was playing the game, which would have made it a lot easier to use. Same with like the dual blades. There's dual blades and the bow focus on a perfect dodge feature. So if you're using dual blades, you can go into demon mode. You attack using demon mode, you fill up a bar, and when you release demon mode, you're in archdemon mode. Once you're in archdemon mode, if you have a perfect dodge, it enters into like a stronger archdemon mode, and that's like the strongest attacks that you can get. I'm bad at the perfect dodge. I don't perfect dodge. I just dodge when I think I need to get out of the way. I don't know the timing. I'm not going to try to learn the timing because that's going to cause me to die more. So I don't do that. And then bow, if I were to master the perfect dodge, it'd make things a little bit easier, but not really. It wouldn't really make that much of a difference because bow is just overpowered.
Sounds like maybe you should just get good then.
I am good, just not at
Ah,
those weapons.
I don't know.
Not at that play style. That's the thing. That's not my play style. My play style isn't perfect dodge. My
Maybe it
play
should be.
style, I don't care to do that because I don't. I learned the monster's abilities enough to know when to get the fuck out of dodge, but I don't. I'm too afraid to sit there and learn when the perfect time to get out of dodge is. I just know, oh, this is a big attack, run. Not, oh, this is a big attack. I got 3.5 seconds to hit the dodge button, then I'm good. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm gonna run when I know to run, and that's all it is to it. That's why I play like the insect glaive or even hammer. You can like run away pretty decently. I was using dual blades a little bit. It felt fun. It is an easy dodge weapon, but like I said, I wasn't getting those perfect dodges, so I wasn't getting the full benefits of it. I'm trying to remember what other weapons. Charge switch axe was felt kind of similar to what I'm used to. The bow was really fun to use, and it's funny. Like I was checking out, or not checking. I was sent an image, and 16% of users used the sword or the bow. 10% of users used the heavy bow gun, and then the least used weapon was the sword and shield at 2%. So it's like 16%. That's a lot because there's 14 weapons. And there's even weapons I didn't practice with. I didn't practice with the gun lance. I didn't practice with the hunting horn, the hammer, the lance, stuff like that. There's still weapons I didn't practice, but I think I know what weapon I'm going to use. And it's going to be fun to learn like a complementing armor set. So if I run around with, say, the sword and shield and the bow, what complements the two of them that work very well because they're both drastically different weapons that need or potentially require drastically different types of armor sets. So what can I build that works with both of them? Or should I go with the bow and the dual blades that are both stamina based builds, and this way it's a more min-maxed armor set? It's really cool. The world looks beautiful and fantastic. The monsters, like from what we saw, look amazing. The wound system is really cool because after creatures do certain attacks or when they're gearing up to do certain attacks, it also opens up wounds or weak points for them that if you're able to hit that, you stop that attack and you do like you knock them out or you cause them to stagger, which like will really help you later, like when fighting the bigger monsters. So Dosha Gama is one of the monsters. He's like this big bear guy. He'll stand up on his back legs and his belly will glow. And if you can hit his belly, that'll stagger him. Otherwise, he's doing a heavy attack. Or was that? No, is that Dosha Gama? I can't remember. Or there's like a little toad guy that like he'll stick out his tongue and drop his tongue on the ground as he's like trying to catch his breath if he's exhausted. If you can hit his tongue, you can do extra damage. It'll stagger him.
So they're using classic video game boss strats with like the glowing belly, the tongue falling out, all the classic signs when fighting video game bosses.
Yeah, kind of, but like it's even a little bit more subtle than that. Like one of the monsters, I call him, I can't remember what its actual name is, but he's just a freaking worm from Tremors, basically. He'll spit like an acrid like oil substance out of his mouth. While he's spitting that out, his mouth is a weak point. So if you can time it right, you can go up and hit him while he's attacking and cancel the attack. Or if Rei Zhao, which was the big monster that they had in the beta, the hardest monster so far, he has this heavy attack that if you can survive through or dodge out of and then get into his face in time, after he finishes the attacks and lands, his face is opened up for a big hit, a big wound. That's something they never had in other Monster Hunter games. So it's like it adds another little bit of strategy. And then if you're playing with other players, well, who do you want to get that attack? Because if I'm using, say, Insect Glaive, that fills up one of my charge bars for the Insect Glaive if I do that attack. So if I'm out of it's pheromones. I send out a bug to get pheromones off the monster, and I have to get 3 different colors. If I don't have any of the colors, I can go up to the wound point, hit it, and it'll fill up my entire wound point. I won't do as much damage as, say, somebody who uses dual blades, who then gets like a spinning saw blade attack all the way across the monster's back. But it helps me stay up on my power-ups. Or bow users can actually make multiple wound points because they can charge their attack and they can hit them up to 3 times, and then they shoot a final heavier blast at them. Like who do you have do that? It adds a little bit of strategy. Like which one's better? For me, I just want to be like the coolest looking one. So if somebody's running around with dual blades, go ahead and dual blades. Because like being an insect glaive user, I don't necessarily want to always be the insect glaive gets a mounting. If you attack an enemy while in the air a lot, you mount the body, and then you can create wounds along their body. And once you create as many wounds as you can, you then do your heavy attack. The insect glaive gets to pole dance. You actually because it's a big lance that you can or a big spear basically. You stick into the enemy's body and then you spin around it, and shaking it around causes damage. It's really dumb, but really amazing. But yeah, I'm excited to get into it. I like the map for the basic region. For the region, just what's available in the beta is freaking huge. So they incorporated a new they have a new mount that you can ride on that isn't so in Monster Hunter Rise you can ride on your Palamutes, which were the dogs, but they were also your partner creature. So you could have a Palamute and a Palico, the cat. In this one, they're called secrets. They're not dogs. They're like weird chocobo sort of bird dog combo things. And
like
they're
you ride them?
You ride them, yeah. They're just a mount. They're not like a partner creature. You still have your Palico with you. But these guys, they're just a mount, and they're like a mobile base. So if the fight is taking too long, your handler will be like, oh, by the way, they sent us more supplies, so you should check out the supplies in your secret. And so you hit left and you can refill some supplies. That's where you switch out your weapons. So he has a saddlebag for whatever weapons you're using. It's really cool. It adds that little idea of a mobile base, as well as you can then place different bases out in the world at certain locations. But if monsters go up to those bases, they could actually destroy them. So you're gonna have to place them again. I'm excited to see how this world is, how open this world is, and how big this world actually gets.
In Worlds, it wasn't actually like it's not a world in Worlds, right? You go to zones, you have to pick the zone when you leave the hub world.
Yeah. So Monster Hunter World was called Monster Hunter World because you're in the new world. That's what it was. It was like they had the regions were a little bit open, but you're exploring the new world. That's why it was called World.
Okay.
Yeah, it had nothing. It wasn't like an open world thing. They had a bit of an open world system at late game at the end of Iceborne, where you would just run around and constantly fight monsters, and based on what you fight and your ranking with them, gave you different special materials to where you could upgrade your weapons beyond the highest point. But yeah, it was just, for the most part, it was just, yeah, you would pick a quest, go into a region, fight the monster. Well, now there could be 7 different of the same monster in the world at one time, and you can pick which one to go after, and they're all actually different ranking. So it could be a 1-star to 5-star ranking. 5-star is going to have more health, maybe do more damage. The fight's going to be a bit longer, but you might get more materials for completing that quest. It also doesn't look like there's going to be set quests. I'm sure there's going to be a quest board that you can take that'll always give you certain monsters, but it looks like you're going to be able to just be I want to fight this guy that's out here right now. Let's do that and turn it into a quest.
Okay.
Yeah, they're doing a lot to change up the game. They're also doing a lot to kind of streamline it to get even more new players into it. I'm excited for it. I can't wait. The story I really don't care about, because I never really care about the Monster Hunter story. It's not really a major point in the game. But we'll see what happens when I actually watch it, because like I said, I skipped it because I only have this for 5 hours. I'm not watching cutscenes that I'm not going to remember and have to watch again in 3 months.
Yeah, I mean that also makes sense.
Yeah. If I could, and there's a reason why they don't do this, but if I could, if my save carried over, then I would have watched it. But there's a reason they don't have your saves carry over. It's because, if you played and fought the same 3 monsters a million times, you would have all the parts. You could then sell all the parts when you get into the game for all the money in the world. So it would just it would break it. So it's no, you can't, your save doesn't get carried over, but your character creation does, if you liked how your character looked. So I had my cat was a big poofy haired cat, and my person had Joker hair. He had purple and green hair and pompadour and a tattoo on his face. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. February 28th can't come soon enough. I'm taking that day off. And I'm honestly considering taking like a couple days off the following week. I might take the full week off. Who knows? Probably won't do that.
Treat yourself. Take that full week off.
I mean, probably. I mean, I generally have enough time at the end of the year to take extended time off to the point where I am off from the Friday of PAX to I don't go back until the next Monday after. So I took a week off after PAX because I have that much time off this year.
Nice. Yeah. Use that time. Treat yourself.
I have to, or I lose it. So.
I mean, that is true too.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say about Monster Hunter?
No, it needs to be February 28th.
Nah, I'm okay if it takes a little while. So I read the book Project Hail Mary. If that means anything to anybody?
It means nothing to me.
Never heard of it.
Have you guys heard of The Martian, the movie from like 8 or 9 years ago with Matt Damon? Rich, you familiar with The Martian?
Yes, I know The Martian. Yes.
So this is a book by the same guy who wrote the book The Martian. They are not connected in any way. So totally different like world, I guess you'd say. Ended up being super interesting. I actually didn't hate The Martian, but it also didn't really wasn't the best thing I ever read or watched. Mm-hmm. And I kind of early on I thought this one might go the same way, but it's like super popular, and it does have a movie in the works with Ryan Gosling set to star in it, I believe. But so the setup for this one is a guy wakes up from like a medically induced coma on board a spaceship in a different solar system. And he has no memory of why he is on a spaceship in a different solar system. Mm-hmm. He doesn't actually even realize immediately that he's in a different solar system. It takes him a little while to realize the sun that he is looking at is not his sun. And so throughout the book, you get these flashbacks to him on Earth as you find out that there is an extinction level event in the making with this weird organism that can survive in a vacuum, and actually it's a single cell organism that feeds off of the energy of the sun.
Oh, Donald Trump's second presidency.
Yeah, basically. So it feeds off the energy from the sun and basically multiplies like crazy as it gets that. So it is exponentially draining energy from the sun that in the span of 20 or 30 years, I think they say in the book, will essentially cause an ice age on Earth. And even before that, there's going to be such a high level of just drastic climate change that millions of people are going to die. And the world is just going to be fucked kind of regardless if they don't find a solution for it. So this guy was some sort of biologist that posed the theory that liquid water isn't needed for life. So he ended up leaving that side of science and went and became a science teacher, but got roped into this whole thing as a specialist, and ended up actually being the person who figured out the most about this organism in space. And they end up figuring out that there is another star near ours that also has these organisms in its solar system, but that it's not actually impacting their star for some reason. And they can't figure out why, so they set up this whole elaborate mission basically to get there. It's a lot of hard science fiction stuff with the assumption that, or not the assumption, with what's the word I'm looking for? Where you kind of just have to accept that something is not real. There's a term for that, and I just can't think of it. Suspension of disbelief, mm-hmm. Where you have to accept that some of the stuff that they're talking about, while they're talking about it in very hard science fiction ways, it's not real. There's no way that it could probably be real, but who knows too? Science is weird. So one of the things they figured out is that these organisms, if you get enough of them together, because of the way that they react to light, can actually serve as an incredible fuel source. It just takes a very long time to basically breed enough of them to use for a real fuel source. So they kind of fuck up the earth a little bit extra in order to make enough of them. At one point, like even going so far as like the lady in charge who just gives zero fucks about anybody other than like her goal of saving the planet, talks to a bunch of scientists and goes, all right, well, the world is getting colder. So let's just put our heads together and figure out how we can make more greenhouse gas, since that was making the world warmer and we weren't even trying. And shit like that I thought was funny. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so like they kind of like, you're kind of like picking up all these bits and pieces of how he ends up there, as he's kind of stuck alone on this spaceship in a whole nother solar system. And about halfway into the book, he actually finds like another intelligent life form, who is literally in the same exact predicament that he's in, just from their own solar system too. And I actually thought the book did a really interesting thing with the characters actually asking, how is it they have so many things in common? Like they figure out, like through math and science, they figure out ways to communicate, because there are certain things that are just universal, like 1 and 1 is always 2. But like this alien species, it has no mouth, it has no eyes, it communicates through sound somehow, and it sees, it's like sonar, so it sees through sound also. And like it comes from a planet that is ammonia based, so like humans could never live on it. But they figure out, or not figure out, but like the book kind of like explores the fact that their particular species were just evolved enough in technology to be able to come to this solar system to look for a cure for the thing that's happening in their prospective solar systems. Any other species out there it's probably either not there yet and probably doesn't even realize that there's an issue, or more advanced and figured out an issue without having to leave their solar system, or figured out a solution without having to leave their solar system. I thought that was like an interesting way to like write out it being like just aliens everywhere. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like from that like halfway point of this book on, it got really interesting, because it was this mixture of this human and this weird fucking alien thing, like basically learning to coexist with each other and kind of becoming codependent, because both of them were alone. Both of their crews were dead other than themselves. And like there's specific reasons why the Earth people died. And then you find out that all the other aliens died because they didn't understand what radiation was. Like their planet doesn't have it. So they were able to figure out space like travel and everything like that. But had never left the orbit of their planet before, where they were actually shielded from the solar radiation. So they didn't know that they needed to put like anything to protect them from radiation in the ship. Mm-hmm. So other than this one alien, the 20 other crewmates all died from radiation poisoning. He only survived because of where he was in the ship was just naturally shielded by it, because he was basically in the engine room, because he was their engineer. Mm-hmm. But so from there, the book kind of goes into like this alien that's an engineer and this human that's a scientist, like coming up with theories. Like basically the human coming up with a theory and the alien like putting things together to like test it out. And it was really cool. I enjoyed it a whole bunch. And I think the narrative jumping back and forth ended up helping it. I personally don't really like the amnesia trope very much. Like sometimes it's done well, but oftentimes like that whole, the person doesn't know what's happening and you just slowly are picking up what happened to them. It feels very cliche in most media. Mm-hmm. I think this one had it paced just right, where if we had known more up front, it would have actually taken away from like the present day stuff in a big way. And by seeding certain things throughout it, you get a totally different impression of things going forward. The biggest one being, this guy, he did not volunteer to go on this mission. So the kind of like in-world thing is, they can medically induce these like long-term comas, but like the human body is not meant to be unconscious for that long. And what they were finding was after like a month or something like that, people generally like either died or had severe brain damage. And this was found out before the issue even happened by like some company that was actually trying to like use this sort of technology as a medical procedure for people with like terminal illnesses of basically we'll just put you into essentially like cryo sleep without the cryo part of it until either we have a way to cure you or our existing methods to cure you have like done the job. So like somebody has like stage 3 cancer, like something that's like treatable but would be terrible. They go into this coma, go through all the treatments while they're unconscious, wake up and are in remission. Only that wasn't working. But what they do find out is there's like a genetic marker of people that are like, they're not definitely going to survive, but they have a better chance of surviving. And of course, because fiction, that our POV character happens to have that gene. And when the other person who was actually, that was an actual astronaut and trained to go dies, he doesn't even actually agree to it. They literally force him to do it. Like they drug him, they black him out, they put him in the ship. They tell the rest of the crew that he was nervous about going to space and didn't know that he could be awake for it. And then just shoot him into space and figured they'll let him figure it out later. And so you don't find that out until the last, like, I don't know, 50 pages of the book. So there's a whole bunch of like discussion with the alien about how both of them were willing to give up their lives. Actually, other important thing I didn't mention, for at least the human trip, it was a one-way trip. It was a suicide mission. They were only able to make enough of this fuel to get them one way. So the plan was go out there, find why that star wasn't diminishing, and then they made little tiny ships with just hard drives in them that they were supposed to just put all the data in, all four of them they had, and just send them back to Earth, because the smaller ones would require way less fuel, so they could make the trip in the same amount of time with far less fuel. So this guy like had no desire to go on this like suicide mission. But you have these conversations with him and the other alien where like they were both willing to die for like their planets. And then you find out like almost at the end that that wasn't the case. This guy actually had he told them no. When he was given the chance, he just said he wouldn't do it and that they should find somebody else. And I thought that hit actually really hard at that point in the book, compared to had we found that out at like the halfway point when he was getting like the majority of his memories back.
Mm-hmm.
Because like throughout the whole book, like because they're doing these flashbacks and they're showing us, oh, there are 2 full teams. It's 2 3-person teams of astronauts that are going on this mission that they know what the deal is. There's actually a chapter where our POV has to actually go to the 2 teams and find out how they want to die. Like they're just given the like, you're going on the suicide mission, like we will give you what you need to like die how you want to die. And like one guy like gives like a whole list of like stuff of like I basically want to just die from nitrogen poisoning or something like that, and like explains everything out. Another lady's like, I want to overdose on heroin. I've never done drugs before. I want to do heroin a whole bunch, and then I want one final dose that's just going to kill me.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was fucking crazy. But
yeah.
So yeah, like the whole book, they're showing us that they have these teams and they have these redundancies. But you're like, well, something went wrong, and he ended up on the ship. And you do kind of just assume that he accepted the fact that he was the only one left that could do it, so he did it. And to find out at the end that like that wasn't the case was just it was like a good twist, I guess I should say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, overall, really good book. A lot better than I expected it to be. Like I thought I would like it, but not love it. But I ended up actually liking it a lot more than I thought I would, and I'm actually looking forward to the movie that I think is supposed to come out next year. Like I think the movie's supposed to come out in 2026. So okay. 2 years. Or year and a half, because it's probably gonna be like a summer movie.
Mm-hmm.
But also like Ryan Gosling's fun and stuff. So and the way that this character is written, I think like he could actually he's actually a good pick for that part. So
yeah, it sounds interesting. Sounds like a wild ride of a book.
Yeah, it really was, and it was weird. There was so much science talk in it, whether it was real science or like fake science. There was so much of this like explaining things and how things worked and all that stuff, but it never felt like it was too much. Like it didn't feel like it was just exposition on like how science worked just to have it in there. Like all of it always felt very organic. Like this is just a conversation or a thing that's happening in the book, and it makes sense for this stuff to be talked about.
Yeah.
But yeah, was a good book. I liked it. I recommend reading it. There is more to it than just what I said. So
Nice.
yeah, and that is all we actually have on the agenda.
Yeah, it's a day. It's a day. I beat Resident Evil hardcore mode.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it took
Did-
this run took a lot shorter of a overtime frame.
It
You
was
only
Jill, right?
It was Claire.
Claire, right? Sorry.
Yeah. But it took longer to run than my playthrough with Leon, but I think it took longer to run than my playthrough with Leon. But it took less time to beat overall. Probably because I was able to actually go live at 7:00 yesterday, and I was because I could it was still fresher in my mind from Leon.
Motherfucker.
What?
So I thought I saw Jill somewhere. I just went and looked at your schedule. RE2 hardcore Jill. RE2 hardcore Jill.
Did I write Jill? Whoops.
Yeah.
Nope. Meant to write Claire.
It's fine. I just thought that was
whatever.
funny. Like I knew I saw it somewhere.
Well, I didn't write Jill. No, it's Claire. But yeah. So Leon took me like 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
I remember
I think
like you were at that
it
one
took-
for a while.
it took me like almost a month, but I think I can't remember if I think I did like bonus streams in between and stuff, and so it took me a little bit longer, and I was only doing like one section per stream, and I was only most of the time I wasn't able to start till 8:00, but yes, I was able to get started around 8:00 on Monday, and I got past the first boss on Monday, and then yesterday, like from the first boss to from the first boss to the second boss only took me an hour and a half, and then that's like 2 whole sections. It's going from the second time that you're in the because you do the first half of the police station, then you do the second half of the police station after the first boss. So it's doing the second half of the police station, the orphanage, and the sewers before you get into the second boss. That only took me an hour and a half, and at that point I was like, well, it's like 9:30 or something like that. It's almost 10:00 when I was getting into the hive, which is the last area, which is like 45 minutes long, depending on how long it takes you to do it. So I was like, I'm gonna go take a break, and I'll come back, and we're just gonna finish it. And we did. The final boss, the second to final boss, basically the final boss. Both the last 2 bosses of the main game, not including the Scenario B final boss, took me 2 tries each. But other than that, I was like, all right, this is great. I beat it. The challenge is complete. Now I have to play the worst game I ever played, which is Mega Man X8, and that'll be next week on Tuesday.
I'm excited for you.
I'm not.
So
I'm not.
So is Claire's route shorter, or did things just go better for you?
It took me longer to beat it. I believe. I think it took me like an extra half hour or so to beat it. It's not necessarily shorter. It was fresher in my mind. So
Okay, that's fair.
the thing is, like, the storyline is the same for the most part, the same, but Leon deals with Ada, Claire deals with Sherry, the little girl.
Yeah,
And so-
I knew that part.
So Leon does a whole section in the sewers that Claire doesn't do. And then at one point, like, Leon fights the alligator. Claire does not fight the alligator. The alligator fight is not hard. It's just you run from the alligator and then you shoot an explosive barrel. And then you do a section as Ada. And that section as Ada actually takes a little bit longer.
And I've seen this section where you play as Sherry, and it doesn't seem very long if like you can do it right.
It's not long. It's just a pain in the ass because it's boring. It's stupid.
It's a shitty stealth mission, right?
Yeah, and it's not even like the first half of it is just like getting to the part where you're being chased, and then you're being chased for like 2 minutes. If you know where to hide, you're good. But if you don't know where to hide, then it's like, well, shit, I don't know what to do. But yeah, it's just annoying. It's an annoying sequence, really, and it makes no sense. So you're running around as Sherry in the orphanage, and so you have to get the key to escape the orphanage. So what you do is you have to go down the stairs. You have to make your way out of the rooms, go down the stairs, find the key, and then escape. Once you find the key, the police chief catches you and starts chasing after you. So you start running away and you go back where you came from, and then there's this little maze section that you can like hide around in, and then when you hide, the police chief will go and like you at one point you throw acid on his face and he goes to like clean his face off in the bathroom. You lock the bathroom door and then you run out. So as you're running out, you leave. You lock the bathroom door. You unlock the door from the room you're in. You go downstairs. You go to the main room, the main doors in the main hall. You use the key to unlock it. You go to open it. There's a chain on the door. There's a straight up chain on the door. You cannot remove the chain. It's stuck. How did he chain the door from the inside? Is question number one.
Magic.
So then you have to run back into the room where you originally got the key from. And then when you get in there, he catches up to you. And then William, the villain, attacks and kills the guy because William is Sherry's dad. So then you take back over as Claire and you have to run to the orphanage. Guess what's not there? The fucking chain on the door. Where did that chain go? Because William came in from underground. He didn't break the door open. The door was still closed. And William's not smart enough to be able to close doors. He would have destroyed that door open if he came in from the outside. No, he came in from inside. There's like a porthole there's like a trap door that he climbed up. So where did that chain go? Why? How did he lock you in there? And then where did it go after he was killed? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And it's a stupid sequence, but like they added that sequence where you run around as Ada for Leon, so they needed to add a sequence where you run around as Sherry. Luckily, they do give you a save item right before you get into the hiding sequence, because I went from basically beating the first boss to that orphanage sequence without saving. And in hardcore mode, there's no checkpoints. And I forgot to save before going into the orphanage. So if I had died, I would have had to redo an hour and a half of gameplay. So luckily, they're like, here, we'll let you save right here, because otherwise you're going to be fucked if you lose. And luckily, I was able to save, because I got killed the first time. I had to do that twice. But it's just a stupid part. But, it's a great game. I love it. I don't love it enough to care to try to do speedruns. I mean, I kind of would like to get, like, all of the collectibles from like getting an A rank and an S rank, but I also don't care that much about it. I'm not going to do it. Who knows when the next time I'm ever going to play this game is? Probably not for a long time.
I don't know, man. You said that 2 years ago, and here you are playing Resident Evil again.
I mean, I don't have a reason to play it now at this point because there's no harder difficulty. The only harder difficulty would be like doing a playthrough of not opening the item box or something like that. Which I'm not going
to... Next time, S rank or whatever.
No. Because that, again, I don't know the game well. It's going to be so far from now that, like, it's going to require me to do multiple playthroughs just to be able to learn that to get the S rank. Because, like, you need to know the optimal path to get the S rank.
Sounds like you've got your October plan for next year.
No, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it for October next year. I'll do something else. I need to one-up Resident Evil October.
Well, you do that by playing Resident Evil 2 31 times.
No, that's not happening. But yeah, but it was
cool,
it was nice. I beat it, and it's done now. That challenge is done.
It is done, and your next challenge begins.
Yeah, I mean, it should hopefully begin and end on Tuesday next week.
Oh no, it's gonna take you at least 2 weeks.
Hopefully not. Hopefully it doesn't take more than one session. I'm going to actually watch like guides and instructions and have a list of what enemies to go after and when, and like learn how to actually like play. I'm sure there's like a guide to play that game and what enemy pathing to go.
Oh, absolutely.
What stopped me playing that game, I was like an hour in and I'd only beaten one level. And the second level I was in was just an infinite loop and I was missing something and I don't know what I was missing. I couldn't figure it out, or there was an enemy I wasn't hitting, or maybe there's a path I wasn't going. But it was like it's one of those like on rails levels where like you can't go left, you can't control it. You're always going forward, but it's like an infinite loop of going forward because it's in a 3D space. So you're basically moving yourself around on the screen and shooting in front of you. It was bad. It was bad.
This was X8.
Yeah, this is the last X game. There is
the PS2 one too, wasn't it?
I don't know. Probably. It had voice acting, but that doesn't really matter. I think it was PS2. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like 7 and 8 at least for PS2.
Yeah. There's even a mod or download that you can get that I thought about doing. Because, I mean, it's kind of cheating the challenge, but at the same time, it's not. It's a mod that turns the game into 2D.
As opposed to
3D.
Wait, it's a 3D game?
Yes.
Holy shit, I don't think I realized that.
Well, it's like a 2.5D kind of style, but there's like 3D aspects to it. But this turns it into like a 16-bit 2D style.
Oh, okay, yeah, I just looked it up. Well, I actually don't know that I've ever like seen gameplay from X8.
It's bad. It looks bad. And like you can control all three. You can control X, Zero, and Axel. But like you pick which two of the three go into each level with you or something. It's bad. I can't believe how bad that those games went.
Well, I guess at least you'll get to relive it a little bit.
Yeah.
Next week I should actually have a little bit more going on too. I started playing the demo for that Metaphor Refantasio. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Metaphor Refantasio. It's the Atlas game that's not Persona.
Okay.
It's like it's not Persona, but oh boy, can you tell it was made by the people that made Persona.
Mm-hmm.
Like all like the transitions, the menuing, it's 100% Persona in everything but like context, because it's actually set in like a fantasy world and like bit like that. But yeah, I've got that, and I also I started playing the new Life is Strange, but holy shit, does it run like dog shit on the Steam Deck? So I'm probably gonna have to like try it on like PC or something and see if it plays any better. But we'll at least have that stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be starting. I'm off of work on Monday because it's Veterans Day, I believe, right? Yeah. So I'm off. So I'll be doing a long stream, and I'll be jumping into Immortals: Phoenix Rising.
Nice.
That's why Mega Man X8 is on Tuesday and not Monday next week, is because I have that chance to do a long stream, a midday stream. So I'll be able to jump into that for a longer period of time.
Nice. Yeah. So we'll have some new stuff to talk about next week.
Yeah.
But other than that, we are probably done for tonight.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
We can all go do something else now. If you would like to find more of our content, you can head over to www.one-quest.com. You can also help us out by supporting us at patreon.com/onequest. Can't support us there with your dollars, though. You can go to your favorite podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, rate us, review us, subscribe to us. It all helps. You can also find us on social media, facebook.com/onequestonline or at @1_quest on Instagram and Twitter. Our YouTube channel is youtube.com/onequestvideo, and you can always send us an email to social1-quest.com. And Rich, what does your streaming look like?
Twitch.tv/b_walnuts for video game streaming Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. With October officially over, that starts that brings the return to Monster Hunter Sundays, Sea of Thieves Thursdays, and whatever game I'm playing on Mondays and Tuesdays. This upcoming Saturday, what is it, the 9th, right? Is that Saturday? Yeah, Saturday the 9th, starting at 8 o'clock, we're doing Lockdown Protocol. Next Saturday, the 16th, we're doing Mario Kart. So you should definitely check those out as well.
Nice. And with that, we will be back. Yeah, we will be back next week with something else to talk about. Thanks for listening. Bye.
See yous.
Bye.